right, if I can ask everybody to please rise. Tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Andrew Lehman with Redeemer Lutheran Church. And if I can ask you to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Merciful Father, from you comes all rule and authority over the nations of the world. Graciously regard your servants, those who make, administer, and judge the laws of this nation, and look in mercy upon all the rulers of the earth. We ask your blessing especially on the meeting of the City Council tonight. May peace prevail in all their deliberations, and may you grant them wisdom to plan and do that which is most beneficial for this city. We ask this all in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Lehman.
Thank you, thank you.
Council, first order of business will be to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting, the work session, and the agenda meetings which were held on the 25th of January. Do you have any changes, additions, or deletions to these minutes?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, Council. Mayor Sullivan, your report, please.
Thank you. Just a few things that I have. One thing, I wanted to recognize a couple of employees. I guess a while back, the council approved for a wellness program for the city of Fairhope, and that would allow employees to complete a biometric screening and 2 coaching sessions per quarter, and they would receive $25. If you completed your biometric screening and 2 coaching sessions and earn 100 iHealthy points within the quarter, you would be entered into a drawing for $250. So in those iHealthy points are anything from walking your 10,000 steps to doing additional coaching sessions. So really something to focus on wellness for our employees. And today we had 2 employees, Laura Selby and Ashley Tucker, who won the $250. And Laura's here today and wanted to recognize her. Thank you, Laura, and thank you to the council for approving that. The other thing I wanted to report on was we did have a meeting regarding the intersection there on Nichols between Hope Farms and the brewery. That was given to me by the council from the traffic committee. And so the police chief, Richard Johnson, Hunter, and the folks in that area all met and talked about that intersection. We are going to be making some recommendations to possibly install a speed table or with a kind of a brick speed table to slow traffic there. Also serve as a crosswalk, and some additional lighting, and possibly add some solar pedestrian signals. We're going to go ahead and ask for the crosswalk and the speed table, and then we'll look to see if we need the pedestrian signals. But everybody was in favor of doing these improvements, and Councilman Boone was also there. Yep. Oh yeah. Yes, he was. And the other thing I wanted to do was thank Thomas Hospital, thank our police department, thank Three Circle Church for the vaccines this weekend. There were some challenges with traffic. I'm sure everybody's heard about those, but we were able to vaccinate 1,500 people with their first dose of the COVID vaccine, so I call that a win for everybody. But they'll do that again in a couple weeks on the 27th, I believe it is, on a Saturday, to be able to offer that second shot to folks. But I'm real excited to be able to do that and happy to partner with these folks to bring that here to Fairhope. And just the last thing I'll say is thank you again to Councilman Martin and Councilman Burrell and the other council members for your time spent on the budget, and to the department directors, particularly to Jill Cabanis and Kim Creech for their work on the budget this year. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. The next item will be public participation for agenda items. Items 5 through 7 will be public hearings, so if you would like to speak to those items, if I can ask you to wait until we have the public hearing. Items 8 through 35, though, if you would like to address the council on items 8 through 35, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, you'll be given 3 minutes. And I'll remind you, if you have something that is not on tonight's agenda that you would like to address the council about, That will be item 36 at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. So concerning agenda items, the floor is open. Okay, I will close public participation. I'll move on to council comments. Councilman Boone.
Actually, I have no comment.
Councilman Brown.
No comment.
Councilman Conyers.
I just want to say thank you to the volunteer members of the Fairhope Planning Commission as well as the staff at the Planning Department. All these folks do a tremendous job. And we had a 6-hour-long planning meeting last Monday night from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. The initial package was almost 700 pages, and for volunteers to come spend that kind of time to read through all that and ask good questions, really do it just because they love Fairhope, and their effort and the staff's effort does not go unnoticed, so I just want to say thank you. And see a couple of engineers in here too, and Larry and Trey. I mean, it was a long night, and they're good sports too for staying here and working with everybody, so thank you.
Can I ask someone to please close that door and keep the door closed for the remainder of the meeting, unless you're coming or going? I know it's hot in here, but
Yeah.
it's a distraction. Okay. Councilman Martin?
No, I was going to say, could someone please control the heat?
You can't see out there like I can, Councilman Martin, it's this.
I have no comments.
Yeah, folks, we apologize. I don't know how it got so hot in here, what happened before we arrived today, but somebody, I guess, is cold-natured. But you know, I had it mentioned to me from my comments that the city should sponsor a COVID vaccine clinic here for those wishing to get the vaccine. And you know, the city of Fairhope doesn't receive an allotment of COVID vaccinations. Those are provided to hospitals and clinics and other healthcare providers. So I think the best course of action is just continue to support them wherever we can, such as the vaccinations that took place on Saturday. We're willing to do whatever we can as a city, but as far as, you know, having vaccinations at City Hall or things such as that, I just don't think that, I don't think that that's possible. It's a great idea. I wish that we could, you know, just call up whomever distributes the vaccine and say, you know, we need 20,000 vaccinations. We want to vaccinate everybody in the city that's willing to take it. I wish we could do that, but we don't have that kind of control. I'll tell you how, I'll pick on the state a little bit. I'll tell you how little they think of municipal elected officials. That today it came out that now elected officials can get the vaccine, but municipal elected officials are not included in that. So, and that's okay. I'll be last, but if you're in a state office, you can get a vaccine. So. I'm glad to see them taking care of themselves like that. And yeah, that's a little bit of a dig at them too, sure is, just in case that wasn't subtle enough. For that, I'll close council comments and I'll move to item 5, which is a public hearing of an ordinance amending zoning ordinance number 1253, Article 5, Section B, Central Business District. This would be Section F, 50% of the gross floor area on the ground floor of a building in the CBD shall be dedicated to commercial use. Would somebody please introduce this ordinance?
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Simmons, will you please explain the issues at hand?
Thank you, Mr. President. What we've seen in the CBD, and this is even before my time, but kind of an evolution, is we do not allow multifamily in the CBD. And when markets change and, you know, the building tends to go with the market, and right now residential is on fire, and what we're seeing is a move away from the commercial, which is the central tenet of the CBD and the intention of why it's there. So we're seeing, you know, tens of thousands of square feet in a building and only less than 1,000, less than 500 attributed to a retail or a commercial use, just so they can trigger the mixed use option within our zoning code. So this has kind of been debated for well over a year with the planning commissioners, and we settled in on the 50%. We did studies kind of looking at what other cities have done in their downtown areas, and the number ranged from 40 to 70%. That last letter F in red on your screen, and I'll blow that up. This is the language, but basically it says 50% of the ground floor should be commercial. And then the next sentence includes how to measure that. We are encouraging retail and restaurants, and that encourage word is important because, I think a lot of our code has been written with words like encouragement and intent. And for the most of Fairhope's history, that has been, people have read those words and looked at that direction and kind of followed suit and figured out how they can fit what their business into that intent and encouragement. And now we could just get, sometimes it's challenged, and when people say, well, it's not in there in writing, you can't make me do it, well, the only option you have is to put new words in the language. So we're still encouraging. That was debated on whether that needs to be required or not. I think there are a lot of options other than retail and restaurants that are valuable to a central business district. So we just highlighted that to let you know it was debated, but still leaving some encouragement and not being too heavy-handed, because those words are there so we can have some options and flexibility. And I think that's what makes Fairhope unique. So it would be a shame to lose all of that flexibility and being so rigid.
Hunter, the CBD is Zone B2, correct?
It's actually, the underlying zoning is multiple things. B2 is the most prominent. We do have some B4. There might be a couple of others within there, but predominantly is B2.
But this would apply to all the underlying zoning, right?
Yes, sir.
So where I'm going with that is a single-family residence is allowed in B2.
Yes, sir.
So if somebody wants to build a house in the CBD, they have to make their half their first floor commercial?
That's what it sounds like. Yes, sir. That's the intent of the proposal.
I think that might have been overlooked.
Well, we have had a few people building
I'm not
single-family
saying
houses.
everybody's going to go tear bills down, but a single-family residence is allowed in B2 right now.
It is. It is, and we can clarify tax generator, so we don't want to be taken up by, single family that doesn't provide any tax revenue. I don't know
But
the
then you'd
answer to
have to
that.
take single-family residence out of the zoning ordinance for B2.
Well, B2 in other areas can still, it's kind of the overlay would.
Within the CBD has to be defined as not allowing single-family, no new single-family residence. Something I think has to be defined.
Well, I think that the rule, you still allow a single-family residence, they just can't take up 50% of the floor. So you haven't changed any rule or stopped anything, they're still allowed, but they can only take up 50% of the floor. So that's the only thing you've changed, which would do more to encourage not to have it on the ground floor.
True, but I mean, when I say for single-family residence, you're talking mixed use, though. That's a mixed use.
You're talking about a house.
I'm talking about a house, like there's a house right
Well, again.
there on Delamo.
Yeah. But that doesn't affect that house, it's only going to affect the new construction.
Well,
True.
but the way it's worded, it actually would be anything, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Not new construction.
At this point.
I actually really think adding the word mixed use in there, a minimum of 50% of the ground floor for a mixed use building would be a very valid option. I think that would clarify, and if we have other ones that come up in the future, and a hotel's a good example of that, because it's 100% commercial. I don't think the intent of at least the conversations with the planning commission was to require that to be 50% something other than a hotel. So, because they kind of can self-contain within a hotel or maybe some others. So I think that addition is valid and something that we could, to answer the question, I don't know if it has to be reintroduced. Lisa, do you have any guidance on that?
You added the word multi. Well, then, if we were going to add that, I would suggest that we amend that and then reintroduce it maybe tonight. We can do that, right? Clerk? Or was this re-advertised?
You gotta re-advertise.
It's actually changing, it's gonna have to be redone.
I tell you guys, I've dealt with a lot of contracts and a lot of language and a lot of legislation and statutes that have been poorly written, and they always come back to bite you eventually.
Well,
Better to get it right.
Better to get it right. And on that note, my question then would be, do we want to, is it better to say excluding single-family residents and hotels, or is it better to say for mixed-use property? Which is the safer?
I think mixed use, because
That's
we
what-
can go all the way through the use table and you might wind up with a very long sentence, and which you might ultimately come down to mixed use, but I can explore that option and see how many there would be.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Does anybody want to speak to this? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Any other comments, council? If not, we'll let this lie over. Do we want to change the words and then have it brought forth again? What's the advertising requirement, Hunter?
I believe that has to be two consecutive weeks, so it would be sometime.
So it would be 1st of March.
Yeah.
I think it's the right thing to do.
It has to be advertised, the whole ordinance, the first publication, and then a synopsis, the second publication, and then it has to be 15 days after the last publication that you can hold the public hearing.
Okay, might be the end of March, so before we get back to it then. I think we need to take those steps,
Okay.
as painful as they are.
Okay.
All right. So with that, Lisa, we wouldn't need to bring this for final adoption next meeting? Okay. All right. Item 6 is a public hearing. This is amending zoning ordinance number 1253, Article 5, adding the HTD, Highway Transitional District, Article 3, Section B. Table 3-1, the use table adding column for HTD permitted uses, and Article 3, Section B. Table 3-2, dimension table adding row for the Highway Transitional District. Hunter?
Thank you.
Somebody like to introduce this, please?
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This is another issue that has been a source of debate in Fairhope, was what to do with the residential properties, especially on Greeno Road. And this was a solution that doesn't affect anyone. I'm going to read that exactly, but where we're going for is an option. The applicant came to the Planning Commission, I believe in November, December, and wanted to rezone to B2. That presented some challenges, and the Planning Commission had a healthy debate on what to do. We got to do something, so we wanted a simple solution, and it adds a district within the use table. It's very similar to B4 with a few changes, and use tables here. So I'm going to kind of move on to the language. Dimensional standards are within the section. This is completely made up of other parts of our zoning code, so not introducing anything else. I would like to read that third bullet point. Unlike other districts within this section, the Highway Transitional District is not an overlay district. It does not affect any property owners other than those who voluntarily apply for rezoning to this district. So I think that's a key ingredient to what we're proposing. It is an option for some of the families that are stuck with R1 that is unmarketable to them. You know, they're not finding a market for R1. This size limit is under 3 acres. At 3 acres, they can apply for a planned unit development or a PUD. So we kept it at that length. We did include this within the corporate limits on Highway 98, 104, and 181. So and the intent there is in between what our comprehensive plan calls commercial nodes or village centers. It's the area in between those areas. What should be done with those as we develop? Front setbacks are similar to B4, building height, parking. The freestanding buildings is also in our zoning code, no freestanding building larger than 8,000 square feet. There's a point of clarification I wanted to make here with this next line item. Along 98 within the corporate limits, there's a 20-foot requirement for lack of a better term, there's named a few things, but a tree preservation area. And there's also a 20-foot setback on many properties. And there was some confusion and past conversations that was a double dipping and we're ultimately getting 20 feet. It's one and the same. So it's just saying within that first 20 feet, it should be a landscape area. And that ensures a little consistency up and down the state highway. So that's the gist of this request. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Simmons, council? It's
mean-
filling a hole in the zoning ordinance. Not
is.
quite enough land to be a PUD, but
It's taking what is B2 and B4, removing a couple of the things that are maybe gives heartburn if you just allow those all the way up and down 98 so it doesn't become a standard commercial corridor. And it actually adds a couple of things. I know one of the big pushes is entrepreneurship and it adds a very light industrial component. So not quite M2, but computer-based manufacturing that doesn't have a byproducts and technology related. Add some of those by right. So it adds a couple of things, takes a couple of things away from B4.
Does this fall into what we see as a strategic or comprehensive plan? Would this fall in line?
This is an attempt to address a conversation that I believe started and will probably continue, but in 1991.
Right.
So, yes, this has been there throughout the modern era of our comprehensive plan, and just allows some of these leftover lots, if you will, where single-family houses are facing a state highway that it's no longer viable for them to sell those as single-family homes.
other questions? Let's go ahead and open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak to this proposed amendment, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, I see no one. I'll close the public hearing. Turn it back over to you, council. Any final comments or questions? It's a lot to digest. I'd like to go back and look at those permitted uses again. In fact, I would ask, Joe, can you back that up to those permitted uses? The matrix with the circles.
It doesn't quite fit on one page, but we can start there. And I can flip to the next page whenever
Yeah,
you're
really
ready.
great. Go ahead. Can go to the next page now.
Okay. And that was nothing else in the...
Nothing there, okay.
And just for the public's information, the white circles have to get, are uses that have to be approved by the Board of Adjustment. Black circles are what we call by right, so...
So you're saying that the white circles or the circles that are not infused are outside of this ordinance?
No, Councilman, the black circles mean that those uses are allowed by right. So if you have that zoning type, anything that's within the black circle within that column, you can do without asking anyone's permission for that. The White circles have special conditions on those that require that use to be approved by Board of Adjustments. So hotel in the CBD is one of those examples. You know, it doesn't mean you can just buy the property, go and get a permit. You actually have to make sure that that use is not going to be a burden on neighbors. But we contemplate that a hotel in the CBD would be appropriate. We just want to make sure that it's not creating a burden on neighbors. So that's the thought process with the white circles. And most of those just mimic B4.
And can you go back a page then? Yes, sir. Questions, council?
Like to absorb just within that chart, but
Okay, yeah, there's a lot to take in there.
it is.
Run
And I'm
that through,
available if
right.
y'all have questions between now and the next meeting.
Yeah, that's why we'll let that lay over. Okay, thank you, Hunter.
Yep, thanks, Hunter.
We'll let this lay over to the next council meeting.
Okay.
Okay, item 7 is a public hearing. This is an ordinance to amend zoning ordinance number 1253, the request to rezone the property of Semen Capital LLC Dominion Partners from R1 low-density single-family residential district to a planned unit development. The property is generally located at the southwest of the intersection of Greeno Road and Volanta Avenue in Fairhope, Alabama. You see the PIN numbers there. The property is to be known as the Reserve at Fairhope PUD. Would somebody like to introduce the ordinance, please? Okay, the ordinance has been introduced. Hunter?
Thank you again. I'm going to get back to this site plan, so we'll kind of move through. As Council President said, this is at the corner of Greeno and Volanta Avenue. It is currently undeveloped property with a single-family house on the southern portion. The northern is undeveloped. This is a project consisting of 168 units. It is intended for a continuing care facility that will have independent living, assisted living, and memory care units. The numbers, as you see, split 104 independent living units, 32 assisted living units, and 32 memory care units. I'm going to split this just so we can see a little more detail. On the southern portion, right hand of your screen, we will look at what is the more, there's independent care in both these duplex style houses, and there's also in the tower, as we'll see in the next slide.
Hunter, top and bottom of that screen, I see north to the left, but I don't know that that's necessarily above that north arrow, if that's east, or
Let's
what. Where's Greeno Road, if I go?
Greeno is the top of the screen.
Top of the screen, okay.
So Volanta is to the left on your screen, and Volanta Park would be further to the north to the left.
North and left, okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. The green space on the project would be required at this density to provide 20%. They're at least 26% provided. It's programmed, and I believe there would actually be more. It's color-coded. They're not including that 20-foot buffer and tree preservation area along Greeno. So could potentially even be larger than that. The proposed stormwater management areas are shown, but not included in the green space calculation. So even more of a that could shrink depending on the size. I think that was in PUD, we're not looking at the details on the stormwater, some of the specs like sewer connections, things like that. That would happen at an MOP process down the road. So I believe what engineer Trey has done is just given a big wide margin of error. That could be shrunken in the future, potentially. Golf carts, outdoor pools, putting greens, the outside facilities are in this phase of the project. On the right of the screen to the south, there is an unimproved right-of-way, Hoyle Avenue. The applicants will be working with Public Works to improve that as a secondary entrance into the site. And to the north side of the property, there is a tower. I'll kind of give you a little rendering here. That's kind of the floor plan of the main building. Color coded, you can see where the memory care, assisted living, and independent living are distributed. And the site plan is, there's also, that's where most of the parking for the project resides, and the courtyards as well for this area. Of course, the security that goes with the memory care units, walkways and sidewalks and trails connecting throughout the site and to our existing pedestrian system. Architectural elevations of the south elevation are on the screen, so it shows that tower. This is a PUD, so we'll have its own zoning. The height, there was proposed maximum eve height of 34 feet. As shown, that would be 45-foot tall buildings to the top of the building, to the top of the roof. You know, we did look at this. I know building heights are always a concern. This does sit back 180 feet from the road, so that, and there's quite a bit of landscape in between there. There was a conversation, the building closer to Volanta is only 80 feet, and we did maybe want to look at that during MOP, potentially losing one unit and stepping that down would provide a better scale, but we haven't looked at that elevation. So we can have that conversation in the future, or we can have it now, council would prefer. There was part of the social infrastructure we have in Volanta Park with the recreation and the ball fields is incredibly important, and having something for our aging population adjacent was from a planning department standpoint, that was a great marriage. Although they didn't really have a great connection, the applicant has agreed to install, if you look at the yellow circle on the screen, there is a crosswalk across Volanta, and there's a sidewalk on both sides of the street. But midstream crosswalks can be problematic if the traffic increases, and both pedestrian and vehicular. They've agreed to install a signalized crosswalk at that intersection. It's not on their property, but they can work with Public Works to make sure that's installed properly and what we would like to see. The diagram on the screen now just kind of shows their internal lighting. It's not impacting neighbors, so I think they were very careful to contain that light on the site. Landscape plans were provided, very thorough. We do recommend this goes through the Tree Commission to review prior to the MOP process. And the staff and Planning Commission actually forwarded this recommendation on without changes. So we made a recommendation to approve with the following conditions. The tree removal and landscape plans shall be reviewed by the City of Fairhope Tree Commission prior to or during the MOP process. The proposed signalized crossing shall be coordinated with the City of Fairhope's Public Works Department. Final drainage plans as well as connectivity to sewer and electrical will be resolved prior to during the MOP review. And a traffic study and building elevations will be provided for review as part of the MOP application. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. And the engineer of record and the applicant is here if you have any questions as well.
Hunter, they're in the process of adding turn lanes down on Gayfer Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably see turn lanes off of Volanta in my lifetime. And what's going to happen to the landscape buffer and the distance from the road when we have to add turn lanes off of Volanta right there? They're going to be right up next to the building?
No.
Are we planning for that?
That's why the buffer's there, because there's a lot of space within the right-of-way. So when that was in, I think we adopted that as a city in 1997, the right-of-way of the state highway kept growing, and we learned we didn't always have control of when that happens. So the 20-foot providing that landscape buffer, even if it comes all the way to the property line, if paving comes to property line, there's still going to be at least 20 feet of a landscape buffer. And
Coming off of Volanta?
Yes, sir. The Volanta has that requirement as well. There's a list of about 13 to 15 streets within the city that requirement is. So both on the Volanta side and Greeno is that requirement. And I can.
Let me make sure. I'm just going to ask you one more time. So there's a buffer there for a potential widening. And so once that widening occurs, is there going to be space for more vegetation, or is it going to be right next to them? There is going to be a space for an additional proper landscape buffer?
Yes, sir. Well, there's, the 20 feet is on their property, so if there was no room left and we had to purchase property from another individual, it could eat into that 20 feet. But on that property outside of the right-of-way is a required 20 feet. So if we could take everything we have within the right-of-way and there would still be 20 feet. If we had to negotiate something else, then it could eat into that space.
Oh, you know, there's a lot of people complaining about everything's being cut down on Gayfer right now. And it severely limits how much you can put there when a turn lane goes in. It's gonna happen. And it's not a matter of if it's gonna happen, it's a matter of when it's gonna happen. Just wondered if we just couldn't buy some more space. You know, I'll just remind council that this is a PUD, and that's the deal with PUD. You know, if we see something we need to change, they may not like it, but that's the reason it's a PUD.
Hey, Hunter, help me understand exactly. I'm sorry, computer was dying and I kind of got a little distracted, to be honest. Help me exactly understand where on Greeno and Volanta this PUD is going to be organized.
Let's go back to the orientation photos here. So Volanta here,
Got it.
Greeno moving south,
Got it.
and it is currently mostly what you see is a stand of pines
Okay. So you cut out.
driving through, and the aerial are these two properties that are highlighted in blue. On the Greeno side, there would be plenty of room. Volanta, if you look at the landscape plans, there is the 20 feet, but then you have the drive, and then there's more landscape area, and then sidewalks and more landscape area. So it wouldn't be that even if we did cut into that, the building would not be right on the road, but there would still be an opportunity to have landscape, and we did not show the full landscape plans, but they do have more within those spaces, namely kind of here, this green lawn created in the horseshoe. I believe this is impervious parking. I cannot zoom in on this, but they did move parking. There was originally parking in this area here and reduced that to provide this green space that is within the property line. So
Mr.
it's,
Jenright, this yours? Can you give me a warm fuzzy, please?
Yeah.
I like your plan. I mean, I think it's a nice plan, and I hate to get picky, but we all know there's going to be a turn lane there one day.
Councilman Burrell. Gentlemen, thank you for the invitation to step forward. We've been working with the city for probably over a year now, and have come to the plan you've got there in front of you. Laying this out, we took into account the, I would call the high intense use of Greeno Road and the high volume traffic on there, and then the soft relationship that we want to maintain next to the single family to the west side, the southwest corner it would be. And so as we laid this out, we clustered the independent living, which is more of a household duplex feel in that area next to the single-family housing on the south end of the property. As you move forward, the first quadrant in the southwest corner is only a two-story building. And so that two-story building has a relationship to the single-family housing in there. And we're maintaining at least a 30-foot buffer in there before we touch a blade of grass, because there's a nice tree line in there that we want to maintain and not disturb any of that vegetation there. As the building grows towards the northeast, the building does step up to a three-story structure, but as Hunter was stating, that there has been a 20-foot landscape buffer that we've added there. So that 20-foot landscape buffer is in addition to the existing vegetation out there on Greeno Road that we are not touching. We're actually going to go inside that 20-foot buffer and supplement that with additional vegetation to soften the edge of this building in there. We feel that it's important. We originally had some parking in that northeast corner right there, and you can see now it's just strictly it's just a driveway. There's no paving or no parking in that corner. The reason for that is it allows us to create an additional buffer. So you've got a 20-foot buffer plus another probably 20 feet in there, so you got 40 feet off the property line before the asphalt drive comes around. And that's to provide enhanced buffering in there. We feel that that's a view corridor that we want to enhance. As you're coming into the city of Fairhope, you've got a nice structure in here. We've got a place that we can put some nice vegetation to soften that edge and to give that story, to give the stepping up of the view. Volanta Road, part of the MOP approval will be to get a traffic study. And so we'll have that developed, and it'll be submitted to the city as part of that approval process. Any turn lanes that may be part of this project or maybe a part of a future project will then be set aside so that could actually fit in there. I think what Hunter was talking about is between the existing asphalt edge and the current right-of-way, you've got room to put a turn lane in there. And so if we were to put that turn lane in there, then you've got another 20-something feet of landscape that we're going to plant as part of the project to buffer this building in there that will not be impacted as far as any turn lane improvements.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily know that your project would demand more turn lanes, because I don't think that your residents are going to be the ones that are piling vehicles onto that road. I just think it's a further development along Volanta
Right.
and every road off of that. But so what is a turn lane? You're going to add, what, 18 feet?
12
feet?
12-foot lane, and if you centered it,
And
if
you
you
have
shift,
about 40 feet. You have, how much of the right-of-way there, Hunter?
That's what I was trying to.
it's a 50-foot right-of-way in there now. So if
So
you
you
had
have
4
50
lanes,
foot
it's
plus
48
20
feet.
foot.
Over by 24 feet, and where it sits.
Okay. But, you know, sometimes these things, the scale is off. You know, I'm thinking, you know, it looks like it's narrow, and it looks like it's 15 feet. Well, it might be 60 feet.
Yeah, you're looking at,
I think from the property line to the building, there was 80 feet. You know, you have an internal drive, and then there's.
And then there's the right-of-way on top of that.
Yes.
Okay.
so yeah, you're looking at 16, a little almost 17 acres there. And so you've got a lot in a big area. It seems like a lot, but I think one of the things that Hunter talked about, and I wouldn't mind pointing it out, is that in our open space requirements there, we showed what I would call to be the worst-case scenario. If we had to use everything else that's not green, we still comply with your open space requirement, per the definition of the ordinance. And so we feel that we've got significant open space. When we get done with the design on this, we'll have well more than this, but I didn't want to under-check ourselves and then come back to you and go, well, heck, this thing changed. You know, we didn't meet it. We got plenty. So we feel very comfortable with that going forward. And I did want to make one comment that Hunter didn't mention, is that Dominion Partners, who will ultimately be the developer of this project, has many of these facilities across the southeast. And an interesting tidbit about this is that 70 to 80% of the occupancy in here is habitats is from a 5-mile radius. So people that will be in here is expected to 70 to 80% of them become from us, you know, our community, our neighbors, our citizens. And so this will be a center
Y'all can
that
come
we're
visit.
building for us. And so I wanted to mention that.
Kevin will beat me there by a few years.
There you go. Went in my house. He'll be at his house, that's right.
So that was it. I thought that was neat. That's a track record that they have. That's something they see systematically across their system. And so this will be a market rate facility. It's first class, and I think it'll be an asset to the community. And I appreciate y'all's consideration for it this evening.
Hunter, what was the recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission? What was that vote?
Councilman, I believe that was unanimous. I might have to confirm that before the next meeting, but I don't have that in front of me, but I believe that was unanimous.
I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. If you want to address this zoning amendment, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Yes. Would you like to speak? Okay. Is there anyone? Yes, ma'am. If you'll come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Carol Schneider, 113 Orange. I think this is very necessary in Fairhope. I know many of my friends are getting to that point where they need a place to go, and this is really important in Fairhope. We have a couple places, I forget the names of them, but they're getting crowded. We're getting old. So I think this is something really valuable for us.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there anyone else? righty. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, and we'll let this lay over for final
A few
consideration.
questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, Robert. Go ahead.
Yeah, Hunter, you mentioned the 45-foot roof height. What was that's allowable under the PUD?
So with the PUD, that is its own zone, every PUD is its own zoning district, becomes its own language. So it's negotiable. If we choose to approve that, then that will be the building height for that PUD that's on that site, and go with it, carry with it throughout its history unless amended or repealed or expired. We do have an expiration now.
And I guess it's a good thing we didn't do the Greeno Road overlay because they got parking on Greeno and that wouldn't be allowed, right?
That's right.
All right. And last, if Jenwright would come back up, you know, he's well aware. I lived below this property for 16 years and aware of the drainage issues. There needs to be some level of comfort putting it in the street and taking it down to pipes that are already undersized, where the city had to buy a lot on Cedar is not acceptable. What's the plan with the drainage off this property, Trey?
Mr. Brown, this property drains towards the south, toward Hoyle Avenue, enters, it heads toward the south. So that property, just west of us, there's about 5 acres that comes onto this site from off-site. The balance of it heads down toward the Cedar House that you're referring to. This site does not, this piece of the property does not drain that direction. It drains toward the south, toward Hull, goes through the Greens property. I've met with Mr. Bobby Green many times about this. Gave him our assurances that if we're going to design it, it's going to be correct. We're going to look at the drainage study. As probably 10 or so years ago, I did a study of Atlanta Gully watershed. I've walked the whole thing. I know it personal. And so one of the reasons that we've got so much white on this piece of paper here and not necessarily green is because I'm reserving that area for stormwater retention. And I'm not accounting for something that I may have to have later for open space. And so we're hopeful that that we will have more open space available, but that's the reason I've got it restricted so much, is so that I do have places to put stormwater management to hold that water back. So it'll be better when we're done than it is today.
Okay.
You know, when you look at that, I don't know what those little round patches are. It almost looks like Grady ponds in there. Were there any Grady ponds on that property?
I think that there was Grady soils out there, but we had a wetland study done.
Okay. So the parcel in the, excuse me, southwest corner with the existing home, that is part of it, right?
Yes, sir.
And I know we were in the future of zoning each area of our town as far as our gas lines and our infrastructure is concerned. Where would this fall? Have we looked at this area and know what we're looking at once we start digging dirt?
It's a great question. There are challenges getting electrical and sewer to the site.
That's what
I think the applicant is very well aware of that and knows that that could be those challenges are. That's fair to say.
Well,
And we will review that during the MOP process. We'll have another shot at them.
Yeah, I just want to, we have to break the cycle. I just want to make sure that, everybody's understanding. We love, a lot of people don't love change. Some people do, most people don't. But in that process of developing, we must take care of our underlying issues that we have in those processes. If we partnership with the people that want to develop, there should be some type of conversation about that in that partnership. I just want to put that on record that that's the way we should start doing business. We have not in the past.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll let this lie over till the next council meeting. Item number 8 is final adoption. This is an ordinance amending Zoning ordinance number 1253, a request to rezone the property of Hermitage LLC from R1 Single Family Residential District to a planned unit development. This property is generally located on the west side of Blue Island Avenue between Gayfer Road and Fairhope Avenue. The property is to be known as Hermitage Court. This was introduced at the January 25th, 2021 City Council meeting.
Thank you once again. I'll kind of move through this one a little quicker since we did discuss this at length last meeting. This is an 8-lot subdivision. The applicant came in requested R2 zoning originally, but still using the same lot size. Well, as you know, if we give R2, they can do smaller lots. So that evolved to a request for a PUD, and what's happening here, the lot sizes for R1 are 15,000 square feet. I believe the smallest lot size within this subdivision is 474,000. So with getting the right-of-way in that we require, the 50-foot right-of-way, utilities where we have access to, that was the request needed to get the 8 lots in. It is a PUD. They have shown the housing that they intend to build within that, including floor plans and elevations. The green space meets the requirements. The drainage there are some upstream drainage challenges within this site, outside of this site, that I believe they're doing everything they can do to remedy that problem. It's not going to solve the sins of the past, but I think it's making the situation better and helping that situation for the neighborhood. There was a maximum lot coverage amendment that changed, so what you see on the screen is just a change to the language. I believe we've made that. The recommendation from the staff and as forwarded, I believe there was one vote dissenting from Planning Commission. I will check that, was approved with the following conditions, and that was to remove that note from the maximum lot coverage portion of the site data table, and the declaration of covenants will be included in the master development plan as Appendix D, and that would be the final, not the draft version of that, so we can get a copy of that as we create the ordinance.
Wonder when if we approve the PUD, can they change lots around in there? Or,
No, the PUD, slightly. I have.
The site plan will be, if we approve the PUD, the site plan will be as submitted?
Yes, sir. The zoning ordinance gives me a little bit of flexibility to make some minor changes, to tweak some things a little bit, but very minor. And frankly, I don't like doing that because it's a lot of paperwork. So where their smallest lot is 14,474, I just asked them to put 14,000. That would give that little bit of flexibility to tweak lot lines to accommodate driveways or radiuses or things like that. But yes, the site plan does govern, unlike what rezoning to an R2 would be.
I want to actually applaud the applicant for sticking to the PUD with the larger lot size and not asking for R2, which seems to be much more the norm now. So they're actually imposing greater restrictions and less density on themselves, and that certainly makes our job a lot easier, and those are the Planning Commission and the Planning Director. So while we may not want all of these areas developed, it could have come in as R1, and they'd have had the right to develop that, I believe, and so they're just right there at it. So not asking for a lot, I don't think. Others may feel differently. Questions for Hunter? Any experience in that drainage of that area, Robert, that concerns you?
I've walked it, I'm aware of it. It's all good.
It's all good now? It's an improvement, right? It's somewhat, it alleviates some of the concern, right?
I'm not an engineer. We can ask one, but that's what I hear.
It should be an opportunity for improvement.
I'm just trying to give Mr. Smith a chance to speak. I felt bad for him back there. Been here an hour.
I thought y'all turned the heat on just trying to sweat me out.
We're doing that too.
It's not just you.
At least I don't have a coat on, I guess. So. Thank y'all for your time. Yes, we are improving some of the drainage issues in that area. One of the items that we heard from one of the adjacent property owners was at times the water will pond up trying to just get into the existing storm system in that area and end up backing up onto her property. And so we've gone through and did an extensive drainage study of the basin that was flowing down to that sag in the road. And we've upsized the pipe size from what's currently there. We're also going to put another inlet upstream of it to help relieve some of the stormwater that's coming down the road before it even gets to the sag. And then that stormwater is carried around the site, does not go into our detention system. It's kept into a totally different storm system than the on-site storm water. And then it's discharged where it naturally flows to. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, clerk, if you'll call the question, please.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, council. Item number 9 is final adoption of an ordinance for annexation of Clay G. Spencer, Lee R. Spencer, and the Fairhope Single Tax Corporation property located at 20657 Northwood Drive in Fairhope, Alabama. You see the tax parcel given there. This was introduced at the January 25th, 2021 City Council meeting. Does anyone need Hunter to give any more description of this? Okay. Hearing no one, I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, will you call the question, please?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 10 is final adoption of an ordinance of annexation from Parker Road from U.S. Highway 98 easterly, approximately 1,373 feet, to the end of county maintenance to the corporate limits of the city of Fairhope from the Baldwin County Commission. This was also introduced at the January 25th, 2021 City Council meeting. I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I do have a question. Would this be addressed to Richard, or would it be you, Richard, or Hunter?
Give it my best.
Well, my question, I believe, and I believe I asked this at the last meeting, was that, do you know of any maintenance that needs to be done to that road right now? I want to make sure that the county's not absolving themselves of their responsibility to do any kind of lane widening or repaving or drainage improvements or such as that would become our problem when they give it to us.
First of all, the county did have it resurfaced, some cooperation between the developer of the PUD there in May of 2020. So the asphalt's about 8 months old now. Of course, as you know, that intersection in cooperation with ALDOT went through a reconfiguration and upgrade. So there are no known maintenance issue, and there's basically new pavement on that road.
Okay, fantastic. Any other questions, council? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Clerk, will you call the question, please?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 12 is final adoption of an ordinance which would amend ordinance number 611 and amend and add to Chapter 21, Article 5, Gas, the Fairhope Code of Ordinances, the meter deposit, installation of new gas service fees, inspection fees of gas installation, and tampering by a customer and contractor, also introduced at the January 25th, 2021 City Council meeting. You can get a motion and a second for final adoption.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, council? I'll say that this was discussed at a work session in length and then discussed again at the prior work session and the council meeting when this was introduced. But do you have any questions for Terry? Is Terry still there? You still there? I believe that we kind of tweaked these just a little bit in our discussions, and we came up with something that was agreeable to all before we put it on the agenda. Okay, hearing no further discussion, clerk, will you call the question, please?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 12 is an ordinance amending ordinance number 1312, section 16, and to repeal and replace ordinance number 1468, known as the Towing and Recovery Rotation Ordinance. This is section 22-56 in the City of Fairhope's Code of Ordinances. Chief Hollinghead, if I can call you up again. I believe we discussed the changes in the work session. Council, do you have any questions for the chief? Councilman Martin, you had some questions earlier.
Yeah, my question was just, since we were going up on a price increase, close to 50%, 50% price increase, he's the only provider in town. I was just wondering what the volume was, and was that a part of why we were going up on the cost? Because he was getting overworked, he thought that his service was worth that much of an increase.
I don't think that it's overworked. I believe that his, what he was thinking was he has not had a price increase since 2012. So he was increasing his fees to kind of come up to where everybody else in the neighboring towns, excuse me, with Daphne, Foley, all of our neighboring cities, to come up to basically about where they are. But I'm going to get that other information that you requested.
Okay.
I've already spoken to him, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that information.
Yeah, it's just curious to see what that looks like and make a better decision.
Okay, I'll have that for the next meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
I need to have somebody introduce the ordinance, please. Lisa always gives me that evil eye when I forget that part there. I wonder why she's doing it, and then it dawns on me.
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, hearing no other questions, we'll let this lie over for final consideration at the next council meeting. Okay. Item 13 is a resolution approval of the FY 2020 to 2021 budget. And if you'll either go on your MacBook or if you have a binder, I'm going to go ahead and read this because the resolution is a little bit involved. It says, be it resolved by the governing body of this city of Fairhope, Alabama, that the proposed budget presented and reviewed the 8th day of February 2021 is hereby approved and adopted for the FY 2020 to 2021. And be it further resolved that the annual salaries of city personnel shall be as shown on a list entitled Annual Salaries of All City Personnel, and the said list is filed in the office of the city treasurer. Be it further resolved that the City Council hereby authorizes the portion of the sales and use tax revenue that is restricted in the general fund debt prepayment account can be used for the general fund operations up to the $2.5 million reduction. And be it further resolved that the Fairhope City Council hereby authorizes the portion of the sales and use tax revenue that is restricted in the capital projects fund or infrastructure improvement special fund can be used for the general fund operations up to the $2.5 million reduction. Is that right? To the $2.5 million reduction? I'm not sure there's a reduction of that. I think that should just say up to 2.5 million. Cross out that word reduction. I think that's a copy and paste error. Say, be it further resolved that the City Council hereby approves the 2% raise across all departments, general government and utilities, including employees capped for this budget, and pay raises for the City of Fairhope already included in the proposed budget for all full-time and part-time employees who have worked consistently more than 19 hours per week in the past 6 months. And be it further resolved that all raises and salary changes adopted in the budget will become effective the day of passage. Any questions about that? We have an ordinance on the books that states that once our rainy day fund reaches $7 million, and we are at that $7 million, that we are required to put a quarter or 25% of the sales tax, a half a penny, towards the general fund debt prepayment account. We don't have any general fund debt right now that we can retire. In fact, the only general fund debt that we have are some long-term, not long-term, actually short-term leases. That's the only general fund debt that we have right now. So doesn't make any sense to put that money into a debt prepayment account. And then also, we are authorizing that the mayor can take the money, the half a penny that's supposed to go to the capital projects fund, and put it into the general fund operations up to $2.5 million. But a lot of that money is being used for capital improvement projects in the general fund itself. So it just gives us a little bit of flexibility. In years in which we want to enact that ordinance, we would not put this part in the resolution, and we would be bound by the terms of that ordinance. Of course, we can change the ordinances as well, but it's easier to look at this year by year and make adjustments to the budget as necessary. So we've gone through the budget now for months. I know that I've talked to many of you for many, many hours. I know that you've talked to the mayor for many, many hours, and you've talked to the treasurer, you've talked to the finance manager. Do you have any other questions about the budget? I also will remind everybody the budget's a living document. Most of the large expenditures come back before the council before the expenditure can be made for a final approval. So it's a living document. Things get worse, we can change it. Things get better, we can change it. We always have unbudgeted expenses that come up, but hopefully we've got maybe enough conservatism in the budget to cover those. We covered 2 of them, in fact, tonight. So,
Green sheets.
any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the FY 2020 to 2021 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, thank you. And thank you to all the staff and all the
Good
department
job,
heads
guys.
that worked a long time for this.
Good job.
Hopefully, and also, let me back up. There was a statement made in there that some of the employees that had maxed out in their salary range could not be given a raise, and some people had not received a raise for several years because they were maxed out, and they're fortunate to have maxed out, but at the same time, when that occurs for many years, it maybe becomes hurtful to that person. And so we did discuss this, and even those that are maxed out can be paid the additional 2%. Some people were not quite maxed out. Some people were almost maxed out. So, and it was a very small handful of people, and it's just not worth it to stick it to those people that fall in that category. We felt that it was best to give it to everyone across the board. So we appreciate everybody in the city that works for the city and what you do for us every day. And hopefully this budget reflects it, and we're doing all that we can. And it may not be enough, but we're doing what we feel like we can live with right now and be financially responsible.
Amen.
All right, item 14 is a resolution the City Council hereby approves and authorizes the City of Fairhope to execute a memorandum of understanding between the Baldwin County Board of Education and the City of Fairhope for salary enhancement for the Fairhope coaches with a budgeted amount of $75,000, which shall include all employer fringe benefits associated with the salary enhancements as calculated by the board. As I mentioned in the work session, this pays those coaches which volunteer to participate in the summer programs for the City of Fairhope, and this is spread among various employees of various sports and those that wish to volunteer for this. And there's no money that's being budgeted more that's been budgeted for the past many, many years. This simply gives us a vehicle for paying these individuals through Baldwin Board of Education, thereby helping them with some of the benefits that they receive from Board of Education. No change in cost to the City of Fairhope. Are there any questions about that? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Councilman Brown passed me a note just a moment ago. I want to skip ahead in the agenda to item 34 so that some people maybe can get on with their evening, because we might be a while before we get to item 34. Item 34 is a resolution. The City Council hereby accepts the renovation gift for the waterfront butterfly information stand from the Point Clear Rotary Club and approves the design as presented. Mr. John Matus with the Point Clear Rotary Club is here, and we thank you for the offer of this gift. And council, I will entertain a motion to approve the acceptance of this gift.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Mr. Matus, if you really want to stick around, we would love to have you, but you may go. And thank you so much. Tell your club thank you.
Yes.
All righty. Okay, going back to item 15, this is a resolution that Mayor Sherry Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a ground lease between the city of Fairhope, Alabama, and the local food production initiative Incorporated, doing business as the Fairhope Community Gardens. This parcel is located on the west side of Summit Street, a delineated and fenced portion of the grounds of the K1 Center. As mentioned earlier, the lease was expired, and it's been a very long lease, and this will be a lease that will go year to year. It's only for $10, and they would choose who gets to participate in the community gardens. This also eliminated some of the restrictions on the times that they can go to their gardens that were in the original contract, because the K1 Center is no longer a functioning school. We would like to have given a much longer contract, but being that things may happen between FEEF and a STEAM center and the city and a performing arts center and any other measures that may be taken on that property, we found it best to do a year-to-year lease with a 90-degree notice given by either party to cancel that. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. If not, I will entertain a motion to allow the mayor to execute the ground lease.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, the motion carries. Item 16 is a resolution the City of Fairhope hereby approves the services outlined as presented in the engagement letter to be performed by Hand Arundel Harrison and Sale as bond counsel to the Fairhope Airport Authority and the City of Fairhope in connection with the issuance of the proposed bond issuance of the Fairhope Airport Authority, and authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute same on behalf of the city. Also, as mentioned in the agenda meeting, this would be refunding that's proposed. It does require attorneys familiar with bond issuances to make sure that everything is done correctly. Clerk, I'm seeing that they do not expect the fee to exceed $6,500. That's an order of magnitude less than what's typically charged in bond issuances. Clerk or Kim, can you tell me the amount will be paid by the airport authority?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, it just needs the city's approval because we're named in these documents as well.
Right.
So it's no cost to the city either. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the mayor, to approve the services outlined herein in the engagement letter.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second, and I will say that the mayor would be authorized to execute the letter. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Item 17 is a resolution the City Council approves the selection of Marissa Thetford or Tetford, I apologize if I got that wrong, marketing to perform professional consulting services for the Fairhope City Sketches graphic design services, and hereby authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to negotiate a fee schedule and establish a not-to-exceed limit with this firm. Ms. Walk is here to answer any questions. I'll entertain a motion approving this selection.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, the motion carries. Item 18 is a resolution the City Council approves amendment number 1 to the contract for professional design and CEI engineering services with Lieb Engineering Company Incorporated to enlist for construction engineering and inspection services for the Oak Street and Section Street drainage improvements at Big Mouth Gully. I think that should be big, not Bid Mouth Gully, with a cost of $3,250, thereby increasing the original contract total to $18,845. I believe that Mr. Johnson addressed us during the agenda meeting. Do you have any further questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this change to the contract.
So moved.
Second.
We have 2 motions in 2 seconds. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 19 is a resolution, the City Council approves amendment number 1 to the contract for professional consultant services with Magnolia River for RFQ number PS15-18, or cast iron replacement program with system mapping and system modeling for the gas department. This will be the deletion of item number 1, review the natural gas system maps in the amount of $25,000. And item number 4, creation 5-year plan for cast iron replacement in the amount of $5,000, and by adding the emergency valve review in the amount of $7,500 for a net deduction of $22,500 for the project. I'll entertain a motion to approve the amendment number 1.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I like reductions. Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion carries. Item number 20 is a resolution. City Council approves the selection of America Designs LLC for professional artist consultant services for the Mullet Run Fountain refurbish and retile work by the artist per the recommendation of the Community Affairs Director and the Water and Sewer Superintendent, and hereby authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute a contract with a total cost of $14,100. At the end of that, it says, which is an unbudgeted item, but according to item 13, it would be now a budgeted item. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the selection at the cost.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll just say that we've looked at having this refurbished for quite a long time, probably a couple of years, and that's a small expense. And you know, I know we toiled over it, but I think it's the right move, and I'm looking forward to what America does with this fountain. We need to get this thing back up and running. So, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, the motion carries. Item 21 is a resolution that Mayor Sherry Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a contract with Stewart Engineering to perform on-call professional engineering services for the electric department projects for a 3-year agreement with a not-to-exceed amount of $25,000 per year for a total contract amount of $75,000. Mr. Allison briefed us on this earlier. I think they're doing a good job with our electrical department. It is on call. It may not amount to that much each year. I'll entertain a motion to allow the mayor to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 22 is a resolution. The City Council approves amendment number 2 to the contract and amending resolution number 3097-18 for RFQ PS14-18 professional engineering services for Sawgrass Consulting LLC for wastewater collection and transmission system improvements for project number 1. This is the Church Street outfall transmission system for CE&I services at an estimated cost of $393,859.98 and authorizes the mayor to execute amendment number 2. Richard, I'm going to ask you once again, we're not adding $393,859. That's the amended amount, which amounts to the 7-point-something%.
That is, the contract amount is 7.52% of the project amount, so that's where that number comes from. And the contract has not been amended to provide for and account for the CE&I. The budget numbers have been there, it's just getting the proper resolution in place so that we can move forward.
Okay, I'm with you now. So we've talked about this, we've been given budget numbers before, but we've never approved it. We'd been given some budget numbers, some draft numbers of about $304,000 and change, and that's what Jill brought up earlier, that we were amending it, that she had worked on the green sheet stating it wasn't a budgeted item, but it is now a budgeted item because we passed that budget. So really, it's not over or above, it should be right on budget. Did I get all that right, Richard?
Yes, this is just to make sure we have a resolution that authorizes the expenditure in the contract amendment.
Yeah.
9,000.
And the engineers get paid.
Yeah, I'll have to say, I mean, 7.52% seems very reasonable.
Yes, that's below the going rate.
That's below the going rate. Yeah, we've had some recently that were, 10, 15%, or maybe even more that we question. Of course, they were smaller dollar values as well. Where are we, Clerk? We have a motion and a second yet?
No, you don't.
I need a motion and a second to
moved.
approve this.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. There being none, all is in favor of approving amendment number 2 and authorizing the mayor to execute it, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 23 is a resolution that the governing body of the city of Fairhope, Alabama hereby rejects all bids for bid number 6-21, beverage vending and concessions 2021, the 3 years for the rec department, that we only had one valid bid received, and authorizes the mayor to negotiate a contract with the one bidder pursuant to the code of Alabama. Which, is this the same one that we walked on to the agenda recently?
Coca-Cola.
That contract's actually ready to go. All we did was we changed some portion of there was some language in there, minor language, and we recommended go ahead and just reject it and then authorize the mayor she can actually execute it now because it's been bid out, we got the numbers in, the numbers, unless we want to change the numbers some, the mayor wants to look at it or council wants to look at the numbers itself. But the contract itself is ready to go.
If we put that on the next agenda for approval, rather than sitting here and spending more time drafting, amending the agenda, which we would have to do, adding it and all that, are we okay with the vending for now?
We're still fine to the end of the month.
We're still fine through the end of the month. Can we get that on the next agenda then? All right. Because we only have like 13 more items to go.
Only.
All right. Well, then, we will, let's entertain a motion rejecting all the bids such as stated here. Go ahead and approve this resolution if you so choose, and then we'll get the correct contract on the next agenda. So can I entertain a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, hereby rejecting all the bids and authorizing the mayor to negotiate the contract, which appears to have already been done. So thank you. We're not upset about that. It's pretty simple. So any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion
Now,
carries.
this is for a Coke machine, right?
Coke. Yes, sir.
Coke machine.
We've spent a lot of time on
For a
this. You know
Coke
that?
machine.
Right. Item 24 is a resolution that the governing body of the city of Fairhope hereby rejects all bids for bid number 13-21 Fairhope Connect newsletter printing and rebid with the new name of the newsletter and specifications for the Community Affairs Department and authorizes staff to rebid. We did not get this in the agenda meeting, so can we get like a quick 1-minute overview, Jessica? While she's walking up, can we get a motion and a second on the table?
Motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Now discussion.
Start my clock. So we got quite a few bids, and we decided to restructure how we were going to do this. As we spoke about this in the work session, we kind of redone how we're doing City Sketches, which is that monthly newsletter. We looked at, with the first bid that went out, we looked at doing a direct mailer to homes. And the numbers we got back, which you might have right there in front of you, were astronomical, and they would bust our budget. It's not appropriate. So we would like to go out for bid to look at a couple of different options and have those kind of priced out for us. Something that's a little bit more fiscally responsible.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Walker? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of rejecting all the bids, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right. Thank you for being cost conscious, Jessica, Mayor. Appreciate that. Item 25 is a resolution that Mayor Sherry Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a contract for extension number 1 of bid 2020 lift station odor control chemical for the sewer department with Chem Station Gulf Coast for an additional 1 year per the terms and conditions of the original contract with a total bid proposal of $5.70 per metered gallon at an estimated annual cost of $213,248.40. I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We spend a lot of money to control odor, folks. $213,248.40. be exact on these. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 26 is a resolution the City of Fairhope vote to purchase an annual service agreement for the dispatch console for the Fairhope Police Department from Motorola Solutions Incorporated as the sole source distributor, and authorizes procurement based on the option allowed by the Code of Alabama. The cost will be $27,992.42. This will allow the police to communicate with their dispatcher. It's just an annual maintenance agreement, so I'll entertain a motion for this expense.
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 27 is a resolution the City of Fairhope approves a procurement for a fence located to the south of the Public Works facility damaged by Hurricane Sally. This request for quotes was sent to 15 contractors, as well as multiple state agencies for MBE and DEB consideration. The city received 3 quotes and awards the project to Consolidated Fence Company in the amount of $11,667. An insurance claim has been filed, and once the claim is done, the FEMA claim will be submitted. So hopefully we might get some money back on this. But in the meantime, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve this expense.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 28 is a resolution the City of Fairhope approves the procurement for roof repairs to various roofs at the Founders Park damaged by Hurricane Sally. This request for quotes was sent to 8 contractors, as well as multiple state agencies for MBE and DEB consideration. The initial request received no quotes, so the city solicited quotes a second time and received 1 quote, and awards the project to Roof Doctors of Alabama in the amount of $38,700. An insurance claim has been filed, and once the claim is done, the FEMA claim will be submitted, hopefully reimbursing some of that $38,700 proposed to be spent. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the roof repairs.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 29 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope approves a procurement for roof repairs to various roofs at the Fairhope Rec Center damaged by Hurricane Sally. This request for quotes was sent to 8 contractors, as well as multiple state agencies for MBE and DEB consideration. The initial request received no quotes, so the city solicited quotes a second time and received 1 quote, and awards the project to Roof Doctors of Alabama in the amount of $17,550. Once again, an insurance claim has been filed, and once the claim is done, the FEMA claim will then be submitted. I'll entertain a motion to approve this expense.
So moved.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? This was talked about in the work session. Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 30 is a resolution the City of Fairhope vote to purchase a 2021 Dodge Ram 5500 diesel crew cab and chassis with dual rear wheels for the Water Department. The type of vehicle is needed is on the Alabama State Department of Purchasing bid list, and therefore it does not have to be let out for bid. The cost will be $50,172. And as we heard from Jason earlier, the crew of 4 needs to get busy with this new vehicle, so I'll entertain a motion for this purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Did we put this amount in the, this amount is in the current budget, right, at this dollar amount? Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's easy when you wait this long to do the budget and get the numbers right, isn't it? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item number 31 is a resolution. The City Council approves and adopts the recommendations for the Community Development Department restructuring and reclassification as follows. Number 1, reclassify the Director of Community Affairs, grade 28S, to Special Projects and Grants Manager at a grade 26S, and report to the Mayor. And reclassify the Tourism and Events Manager from a grade 21S to Director of Community Affairs grade 28S, and approves the pay increase included in the 2021 proposed budget. And number 3, approves the updated uniform job description for Director of Community Affairs, Special Projects, and Grants Manager. So, Mayor, I would like to hear from you that you make these recommendations.
Yeah, I do make these recommendations, and I just want to just reassure everybody, this is just a way of me reorganizing things to be more efficient and more effective here at the city. One thing is with Jessica Walker. Jessica's done a great job managing those restore projects, and as all of you know, there are multiple projects going on right now, specifically the restore projects that are a lot of federal paperwork. And Jessica, like I said, has built relationships with those folks and has done a great job. And I just really need her working alongside of me with those grants to make sure we move those forward and we continue to be successful in acquiring grants and, making sure we get those and manage them properly. So I appreciate her help, and this will allow us to do that, free up some of her time to help more with that. Thank you.
And Mayor, isn't it true that you have discussed this with at least members of the Personnel Board and also the council liaison to the Personnel Board?
I have. And I have also, all the job descriptions have gone to the Personnel Board, to Diane Thomas. She's reviewed all those, made recommendations. We've also submitting them to Auburn for them to complete with their study as well.
Now, when you say you're reclassifying, number 2, the Tourism and Events Manager from grade 21S to Director of Community Affairs, grade 28S, are you completely changing the name of Tourism and Events Manager to Director of Community Affairs?
I am. Community Affairs has been Community Affairs and Economic Development, so it'll just be Community Affairs, and underneath that job will fall the responsibility of the Nick Center, the museum, the Welcome Center, events, all the Civic Center, all rental properties like the parks, rentals, those kind of things. So those will be the things that the Community Affairs Department handles.
What happens with the Tourism and Events Manager position?
It
is
goes away.
eliminated.
It's eliminated.
It is eliminated.
It's eliminated. Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions for the mayor? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve and adopt the recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Just to let fill you in, Burrell, Diane Thomas, the head of the Personnel Board, sent an email out to everyone because we have not been meeting due to COVID.
Okay.
So she sent an email out to everyone. Nobody had a problem with the recommendations that were made.
Okay.
And I myself had no problem with it, so that's what went ahead and went forward. But that's how we communicate with everyone.
Yeah, we're trying to make a precedent of allowing the Personnel Board to confirm those recommendations before we choose to vote.
And the Personnel Board hasn't been as involved the past several years, so I'm really making a point to make sure we involve them. Plus, I mean, just the expertise they have in reviewing these job descriptions, because there's things that we can miss and maybe just looking for uniformity across the job description. So it's great to have that second set of eyes.
Check and balance.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Great job, man.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, Council. Item number 32 is a resolution. The City Council approves the revised and updated job description for the City Clerk as presented and approves to move the City Clerk position from grade 28S to grade 31S. I want to touch on this. Lisa has just done a phenomenal job as City Clerk for all the years that I've been in office, and I'm certain that all the years before I was in office. She's been president of the Alabama City Clerks Association. She's been highly involved. I speak to Lisa, and I'm sure most of you do, multiple times a week. I speak to her almost daily and sometimes multiple times daily. She has not been able to receive a raise for quite some time because she had reached her salary cap. And while this would allow her to receive just the 2% pay raise that everybody else is in the city, she remains humble, and this does not, and I hate putting your personal business out there, but sometimes when you work for the public, you have to endure it, Lisa, so thank you. But this doesn't give her a merit increase. It would open the door for potential increases by increase. It also puts her on the same level playing field as some of the other directors within the city. So I want to let you know that this council, and I'm sure the mayor as well, appreciates all you do for this city. And I'm sorry it took this long.
She also gives you the evil eye when you mess up.
She will give you the evil eye when she's looking for that introduction of the ordinance, too.
That's right.
And sometimes I don't look down there enough, and she'll wave her hand, just throw a pin at me or something, it'll be all right, just don't hit me in the eye.
She does a great job.
Can I get a motion to approve the revised
So moved.
job description, City Clerk?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay. Item 33 is a resolution the City Council approves the recommendations from the Street and Traffic Control Committee's task force for the Twin Beach and Booth Road intersection. Number one, lower speed limit between Highway 98, also known as Greeno Road, and County Road 13 on Twin Beach Road, also known as County Road 44, from 45 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour, and paint a crosswalk across Booth Road and across Twin Beach Road. And number three, construct about 100 feet of sidewalk on the southeast corner of the intersection with a cost of approximately $1,500. That would be done in-house by City of Fairhope employees. Some more background, as you all know, is that the Streets and Traffic Committee made a recommendation to the council to ask the mayor to form a subcommittee of herself and other interested parties, police, public works, and others, to come up with recommendations. And these were 3 quick recommendations that they adopted. I do not believe that this will be all that we hear from this intersection, as this is a much-traveled intersection. It's near a high school. We have safety concerns there, and this might be the first 3 steps of what will be much longer-term solutions. And I can't speak to what those are because I'm not the traffic expert, but we will continue to study this. The mayor and I both serve on the Eastern Shore Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we have discussed the possibility of getting some funds that could be used for a further study of this situation. So I will entertain a motion to approve these recommendations.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. We've already considered item number 34. Item 35 is a site plan extension request of Henry Wise, owner of Wise Living Real Estate LLC, and Larry Smith, with SE Civil Engineering and Surveying, requesting a 180-day extension of the site plan approval that was granted for the property located at 369 South Mobile Street, known as the Pier Street Marketplace. The site plan was originally approved on May 28, 2020. If you look back in the resolution, they cite COVID-19, 2 hurricanes, and the instability of the marketplace along with rising prices in construction. That one doesn't resonate with me too well, but the other excuses do. Any questions? Hunter, did you guys have a recommendation on that?
We don't have a problem with the extension.
You don't have a problem with the extension? Okay. Okay, council, I'll entertain a motion to grant the extension.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 36, public participation for non-agenda items. If you'd like to address the council on any items that were not on tonight's agenda, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes. And there's a clock. Should be a countdown clock. Jeff, you got that remote? Yes, sir. Come on.
My name is Dick Schneider. I live at 113 Orange Street. Been there a number of years, 20 plus. Going through this whole thing, I've sat through a couple of these now. And one thing that I think is missing from them is when we approve something and it says we're going to approve this amount of money, there's never an indication of what was it last year as opposed to what is it this year. So wherever there is an application where this is a renewal or an extension, or, something like that, wouldn't it be appropriate to put in there where it was and now where it's going to be? Possibly with a percent of what the increase is, or what the impact is? I only offer that as a suggestion because following this is quite difficult. And there's a number of them that I've noted on here that went through very quickly and were approved almost unanimously. And I presume that it's because it's covered in your sub-meetings or your previous meetings within the council. And I don't know, it just seems like a reasonable request. Thank
I
you for
agree
your
with you,
time.
But let me give you a little bit more insight into what we have, some of the information that we have that, if we had, like, so my binder, the agenda was 4 pages long. This is the paperwork that goes along with that. And so I'll use number 25. It's a great question, sir. As an example, because number 25 seems like we went through it a little flippant. $213,000 without much discussion. Well, the first thing to point out is it says it's an additional 1 year per the terms and conditions of the original contract. So to make the comparison, there was no change to the terms of the original contract. And then what we have on our monitors and in our books are, what the terms of those contracts are. So we know a little bit more detail than what we're stating, because I'm kind of reading a summary of the resolution. In the resolution itself, they are a little bit more involved. So on this case, $213,000 that we approved with little to no discussion. For one thing, this is something we do every single year, and it didn't change from last year. It's the same exact number, and so we know what that number is. So that's why you won't see that sometimes.
Notation, no change from last year would suffice.
Well, that was actually read. I did say, and it read specifically for an additional 1 year as per the terms and conditions of the original contract. If you look at item number 25.
And that would include the cost?
Yeah, yes, we don't know exactly what it's going to be. It's $5.70 a gallon, which was the same term of the original contract, but based on historical data, it would be approximately $213,000, because we pay per gallon that's used. So I'm not going to say that we're always that good, though, and it's a great question. It just, a lot of times we have that data in the books. A lot of times we already know that it's a historical expense. It's an almost something that we do annually, sometimes multiple times. In the case of item 12, for instance, on the towing ordinance, those numbers, you didn't see the numbers that we saw on our screen. We had the old ordinance with the old number crossed out with the new number written in. So we're looking at that on our screen and in our book, and you weren't privy to that information. That's why we asked the questions about 40% increases and 50% increases and things such as that. So, and all this is available. Go ahead, Clerk.
That's what I was just going to say. The agenda pack is actually scanned prior to the meeting, normally on Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, and it includes everything that they can see.
Right. So the media will get all of this package and search. So I hope that somewhat alleviates your concern that we may not be paying as much attention to it. And I'm not going to say we're perfect, and then we always do pay as close attention to these, but there's a whole lot more information given than really meets the eye if you're just looking at the agenda that I'm reading.
Well, it wouldn't be too much to add just a little bit more so that we understand it.
Yeah.
When you're going through it. I mean, it goes through, do I have a motion? Yes. Second? Yes. A vote? Yes.
Yeah.
So, there's no in our estimation, it looks like, well, everything's just going boom, boom, boom. And we're not getting them anything to really look at. You know, we get our tax bill. It's a very simple tax bill. Here's what it was last year, here's what it is this year, here's what the percent is, or you can calculate it. And I like to look at that, and I like to see, well, are we living within about 3 or 4%? Or is it skyrocketing? Are we gonna turn into a Chicago, Illinois?
Right. Well, I'll tell you another place, sir, also, is that we also go through a lot of these details in the work session, and sometimes it may have been the work session last week, and we went through something in great detail, and so we look at the clerk and we all nod and say, "Clerk, will you get that on the next agenda?" And so it was something that may have been presented in great detail in the prior meeting, or either in the work session prior to tonight's meeting or the agenda meeting. I don't know if you were here, I don't recall, but we went through probably 20 of the 36 items and had supervisors and directors come to the podium and explain the detail of many of these items prior to the council meeting as well.
Well, I sat through a portion of the thing. I thought the session was gonna be at 5 o'clock. Here it was at 4:30. And I didn't realize that.
Yes, sir,
But
always
that's-
4:30.
They're always at 4:30.
Yeah, the work session begins
Thank
at
you.
4:30, yes, sir. But I do appreciate it. Let me, you know why that resonates with me? Because I used to sit out there, I was just like you, and I would say, why is somebody not asking that question? A lot of times when I give some information prior to a vote, it's because I'm thinking somebody's really wondering that question, and we know the answer already, but I'm giving that information. I even get comments from council members that say, why did you extend that meeting and say that when we already knew that? I'm saying it for the benefit of the crowd that may not realize that we really have studied that more than it may appear that we've studied that. So
Well,
there's numerous reasons.
Well, I don't think I'd ever get up and debate that at this meeting. However, I would possibly get somebody aside later on and say, I'd like to understand this a little more. And I think I have a right to that.
You do have a right to. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I
I'm
do,
sorry
Mr.
I took
Slater.
up so much time.
No, sir, no problem. We give you more time when we engage you,
That's
so
online, right?
that's something that's always on my mind, too.
They can find that information online, public.
The agenda packet is online. What you're looking at on your iPad is online.
Yeah, everything that we have is online as well,
I just-
correct.
Yeah.
Would you give that information out?
That's what I'm
Ms.
trying-
Clerk,
thank
would
you.
you give that out for the public right now? Would you say where they can go, City of Fairhope?
That's what I'm asking.
They can go to where the meeting is actually located, and the agenda is there, and when you click on that, it is a packet, the whole entire packet.
But the
Supporting-
website is City of Fairhope,
www.fairhopeal.gov.
fairhopeal.gov. Go to City Council meeting and click on agenda.
The agenda. The work session agenda's on there too,
And all of that information is there.
behind it.
Right.
That's what we're trying to, we want everybody to know that.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And not only that, you can catch the minutes of all the meetings. So for instance, you can check me out on that. You can fact check me and say, did they in fact discuss this at the last work session? Another prime example was garbage rates. We talked about it at length at the last meeting, and then we talked about it at length in tonight's work session. And you're going to see something at the next meeting. It may not look like we talked about it that long, but we talked about it for probably over an hour now at least. So there's an example that if it looks like we kind of skim over, it's because we've already agreed to what we want after two very long discussions. So when it comes up for a vote, we will have already discussed it for quite a while. I hope that makes you feel better.
Well, it does, except I just want to say one thing. I don't want to be an assistant council member. All I want to do is get enough information to get an understanding of the general trend of where we're going.
Absolutely.
So thank you
Yes,
very much.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. All right, anybody else want to address the council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Oh,
Hold on.
got one more.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Snyder?
Carol Schneider, 113 Orange. I just want to reiterate what I asked 2 weeks ago, that you find it in the goodness of your hearts to consider bringing some flocks of little ducklings to the park. Because Easter's coming, and it would be so lovely to have living creatures there again. Please take a ride through there. There's nothing alive. And I would really appreciate it. If I could help you in any way, I will. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lyon, thank you. Okay, did I overlook anyone? I apologize for that. Is there anyone else?
I used to have something. So moved.
Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.